Welcome back. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar has just met the Russian President Vladimir Putin in Moscow at the Kremlin after his bilateral with the Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, during which he highlighted that India-Russia ties are steady and steadier since the Second World War. He's called for further enhancing bilateral trade. He also took on to social media platform X to say, honored to call on President Putin at the Kremlin today, conveyed the warm greetings of President Draupadi Murmu and Prime Minister Narendra Modi, apprised him of my discussions with the first Deputy Prime Minister of Russia, Denis Manturov, and Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov. The preparations for the annual Leaders Summit in India are well underway. Appreciate his sharing perspectives on global situation and recent developments on Ukraine. External Affairs Minister also said India-Russia ties are very, very strong. I get you more in this report. So in his conversation with Sergei Lavrov, the Russian foreign minister, Dr. Jaishankar said both sides have reaffirmed their plans to grow trade in a balanced and sustainable way, especially by boosting Indian exports to Russia. On oil, Dr. Jaishankar made India's stance very clear. China is the biggest buyer of Russian oil, Europe of LNG, not India. He said the US had itself urged India to help stabilize global energy markets, adding that Indian oil imports from the US have also gone up. So here he's putting facts out in public domain. He went on to say, we are perplexed by the criticism. We get you more in this report.
External Affairs Minister Jaishankar is in Moscow even as the United States threatens to tighten tariff pressure on India. The message from Delhi and Moscow is clear. India-Russia ties remain steady, sanctions-proof and built on trust.
We reaffirmed our shared ambition to expand bilateral trade in a balanced and sustainable manner, including by increasing India's exports to Russia. This requires swiftly addressing non-tariff barriers and regulatory impediments, enhancing Indian exports to Russia and sectors like pharmaceuticals, agriculture and textiles will certainly help to correct the current imbalance.
Both sides discussed ways to insulate trade from US-led sanctions, expand settlements in national currencies, and boost cooperation in energy, defense, agriculture, and technology.
We are not the biggest purchasers of Russian oil. That is China. We are not the biggest purchasers of Russian LNG. I'm not sure, but I think that is the European Union. We are not the country which has the biggest trade surge with Russia after 2022. I think there are some countries to the south. We are a country where actually the Americans said for the last few years that we should do everything to stabilize the world energy markets, including buying oil from Russia. Incidentally, we also buy oil from America, and that amount has been increasing. So, quite honestly, we are very perplexed at the logic of the argument that you had referred to.
About how unsafe and how dirty.
For Washington, tariffs are meant to squeeze India.
I've never seen a crowd like this.
We send a lot of dollars overseas to India to buy their products in an unfair trade environment. India then uses American dollars to buy Russian oil. Russia then uses those American dollars that come from India to finance its armaments to kill Ukrainians. And then American taxpayers are then called upon to pay for the weapons that have to defend Ukraine against Russian armaments paid for buy American dollars that came from India. That's got to stop. That math doesn't work.
But New Delhi's counter has been to open new doors, with Russia and even cautiously with China, given that Beijing now says that it stands with India against Trump's tariff tyranny.
The United States has long been benefited greatly from free trade, but now it is using tariffs as a bargaining chip to demand exorbitant prices from various countries. The United States has imposed tariffs of up to 50% on India and even threatened for more. China firmly opposes it. In the face of such acts, silence or compromise only emboldens the bully.
In Moscow, Jaishankar and Lavrov also reviewed cooperation in BRICS, SCO and G20, signaling that multi-polarity firmly remains the cornerstone of India's diplomacy. The diplomatic signal is unmissable. Tariffs won't derail India's strategy. Moscow remains a time-tested partner, and New Delhi is making sure its economic roadmap is not dictated by Washington. Bureau Report, India Today.
I want to quickly cut across to India Today's Pranay Upadhyay, joining us for more on this big story. Pranay, when we talk about Russia investing more in India, how do you see India-Russia trade be taken forward? Because the External Affairs Minister made it very clear, the American criticism that India is buying maximum oil from Russia or LNG, clearly not true. It's China and Europe.
Gaurav, in a very subtle and a very strong message, India has made it very clear that the American narrative that India is fueling the Russian economy and the Russian war machine is not true. The countered by the factual position by the Ministry of External Affairs as well as the Minister of External Affairs, Dr. S. Jaishankar. But, as far as the trade relation is concerned, we also have to see that India-Russia bilateral trade is very lopsided and we are in trade deficit. The currently bilateral trade figure is at around $68 billion, which is, the highest component of it, which is the oil trade. The $58 billion worth of or $54 billion worth of oil trade is part of it. If you, leave apart the oil trade in it, from it, then you are only, left with around $10 billion. India and Russia have planned to take this bilateral trade to the figure of $100 billion by 2030. The FTA negotiations are on between India and Russia. The basic political parameters have been fixed between India and Russia for the FTA, free trade agreement between both the countries. And that's why the Ministry of External Affairs, Dr. S. Jaishankar, has asked the Russian business community that they should partner with Indian trade community. But the clear and a very strong message given by the Indian side from Moscow is that India is not going to buckle down on the US pressure. Also, we are going to exercise our strategic autonomy, be it our energy security or be it our the strategic autonomy of pursuing our foreign policy and pursuing our strategic interest and strategic partnership.
Pranay, for joining me here on India Today, many thanks. India and the United States were talking about taking their bilateral trade to $500 billion by 2030 until President Trump, for reasons best known to him, threw a spanner in the works. Now, we'll be tracking that story very closely. Is it possible to salvage that relationship while we improve this relationship even further?